Patrick just bought his first online business, and this is the story of how he did it, and now he wants more. Hi, I'm Jaryd Krause, host of the Buying Online Business podcast, and today I'm talking to Patrick, who is a Buying Online Business member who just bought his first online business. He's in ministry, and he wants to earn an income online so he can have more financial and time freedom with his young family. Now, Patrick almost gave up right before the finish line, but stayed the course, and he couldn't be happier. And in this podcast episode, Patrick and I talk about how he discovered buying a business, why he decided to buy an online business, what was the hardest part that he had to endure about buying a business, and his words of wisdom to people that are thinking about buying their first business. We talk about what he learned during due diligence. We also talk about what got in his way and how he almost abandoned ship and what sort of changed his ideology around that. Then we talk about the mindset we need to buy a business, which is absolutely critical. There's so much value in this podcast episode. Patrick also asked me a question on how I sort of stay off social media with personal branding because it's toxic on social media, even though I'm an influencer and don't use Instagram. So Patrick directs a bit of attention to me. I direct it back to him and then talk to him about like what are his plans for the future in online business. And then Patrick shares his advice on what you should be doing or thinking about, or how to stay the course and have the right mindset to buy your first online business, because there's so much that goes into it, more than just due diligence. There's so much value in this podcast episode. I know you're absolutely going to love it. Before you do dive in, make sure that you realize if you are going to buy a business that you do due diligence and you know how to do due diligence. If you don't and you want to get a free tool, or you just want to get better at due diligence, take the guesswork out of it, get my framework. It's what I use, it's what Patrick used to go away and buy a business. It's helped people save millions of dollars, and it's helped people make millions of dollars. And you can get this at buyingonlinebusinesses.com/free resources. It's my due diligence framework. You can get it for free. Check it out there. Also, enjoy the podcast. Let's go. Patrick, congratulations. You just bought your first online business. How's it
Yes,
feel?
I'm excited and freaked out all at the same time.
Tell me about that. Well, hang on. Excited and freaked out all at the same time. Let's get to that. Let's get to where the feeling you've got right now. But I sort of want to build a bit more of like how you got here, because it's not like, hey, I just went to the supermarket or the broker and bought a website business.
I wish it were that easy.
Yeah. Don't we all? So what's your background? Where do you work? What do you do for work? Or, are you still working now? What's the go?
Yeah, so I have a small family here in Kentucky in America, and I work with college students, kind of doing similar to your gig a little bit. Life coaching a bit, I guess. I talk to students about life and spiritual things and help navigate through anything of relationships and what classes should I take. I'm thinking about, God and things like that, and help navigate spiritual life. And I love it. So I kind of got captivated by that kind of stuff in college. Had a mentor connect with me periodically and kind of coach me in that. And then when I graduated, physical therapy school was the plan. So I was biology, that was going to be PT. And then I just felt things kind of radically change for me. And for the last 8 years, I've been working with college students now. So
awesome. And what a beautiful job.
Yeah, it's definitely exciting. And I kind of make my own schedule. So it's a little bit entrepreneurial, but also the 9 to 5 is still there too. So there's, it's there.
It's there. Yeah, it's a thing. It's still anything fun or anything at all consistently over time becomes less fun. Right?
Yeah.
So that's why I want to ask you. I was like, so why like, I mean, you like what you do, but it's probably maybe not good for everything. What's your reason why you wanted to get into this online? Was your goal to make money online, or was it to just, what was your goal? What's your reason for this?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Jaryd. For me, it started in college. I have a little bit of an atypical journey in that my dad passed away in college. For my brother and I, we kind of had this like lump of money kind of fall in our lap with like insurance, and he stewarded life insurance pretty well, and it blessed my brother and I, and it kind of started this journey of like, what do we do to be good stewards of the money that kind of fell in our lap. And ministry's kind of, I felt an opportunity to go into ministry because I felt a calling and a passion, but then I kind of moved into this, okay, like, how do I use this money? So we went full Dave Ramsey, pay off the debt and, make a budget and live within your means. None of that necessarily bad. And we started thinking, like, how can we use this to kind of speed up? We started thinking about FIRE, like, financial independence, retire early. And we started doing that through real estate. And, I felt like the market was going to crash at any moment because I had experienced that. I didn't experience that. I knew about that in 2008. But I was really nervous, but I started watching podcasts and learning about how to buy real estate. So my wife and I kind of bought a few things, which was great because we rode that wave up a little bit. And when the market got so high for us, it kind of priced us out a little bit. So we refinanced and we were looking for some other asset classes to get into, and buying websites was the idea was just a business in general. And then we came across your material and it kind of worked our way toward buying content websites. And that's kind of where we're at the moment. So not at the moment. I mean, it's where we're at 2 feet in the deep end.
Yeah, in the deep end.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah.
How did you find my content?
Yeah. I found it initially on YouTube.
Okay.
And I'm trying to think what even made me start thinking about, my friend and I 2 years ago started to try to make a coffee company, and we knew nothing about that. And we were just like trying to figure it out, and it didn't even get off the ground, but it was a fun learning experience doing that with him. And we started looking in how to start a business, and somehow found your content on YouTube through that. So,
well, that's good. That's a good sign, because that is my goal, is to help people or prevent people from starting a business if it's not the right move for them. I'm a big believer there's two types of people, and you really need to know what your goal is. If your goal is to just make money online, I think it's crazy, or your goal is just to make money, I think it's crazy to start a business to make money, because you could buy one that's already doing it and has a proven track record. The only people that I believe that should start a business is somebody that has a problem that they can solve in an area that they're super passionate about, and they're prepared to not make money for a long period of time.
Yeah. And I would say, you asked about our goals. For my wife and I, with our job, like relationally, I love my job. And we have a bunch of partners because my wife and I are missionaries who partner with us to do what we do. So when I think about the money that kind of fell in our lap, I would love to get that in a place where our main income is from our investments and from our businesses and things like that. And then we can kind of do whatever God calls us to do, go wherever he wants us to go. So
cool. So is that the goal? Like, build your asset base up through online businesses and other assets to be able to have a bit more freedom, or what's the plan there?
Yeah. And I'll say what any entrepreneur or wannabe entrepreneur has said or thought, that Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad really changed my life, thinking about like assets put money in your pocket, liabilities take money out of your pocket. And it's like, if hypothetically, if you had enough assets that paid for your expenses, then you're financially free. And it was probably like 2017, 2018, we wrote all the numbers down, and we're kind of thinking, okay, what do we need coming in to just be good? Yeah. And you said something in our call a few weeks ago, like that survival stage is sometimes the most difficult part, getting up to maybe like $5,000 a month or $7,000 a month. And we're kind of churning that out, trying to get to that point.
Yeah, it's a tricky one, and you will compromise things that you don't want to do. It's like where our prostitute archetype comes out to play. It's like we'll prostitute ourselves off in different areas. And hey, I've been there. Like I've been in the survival phase, and I've been in it for most of my life. Right, my parents weren't wealthy. That's for sure. They had 4 kids they needed to feed. So and one person working. Very different. You couldn't do that these days, I don't think, with the way the economy is. But yeah, that's getting out of the survival phase is a tricky one. And I think we recently touched on this on one of our recent calls, is like, we will make decisions based out of fear. That's what a lot of people were doing when they come into our space, right? They're like, I need to buy a business as soon as possible to get me out of the survival phase. And they're doing it out of fear, and they have this fear of missing out on a good asset. So they rush into something. One of the guys in the group said, I just joined the group. I found a site on Flipper. It's about to end in 2 days. Should I skip parts of the course to just to get to the due diligence part, so I can, do due diligence and buy this business. And he got absolutely shut down by some other, graduates in the group, and not shut down, but just like, hey, this is a different perspective on how you could, how you should approach it. What do you think about that when you joined and through your journey in the community?
There's a difference in a scarcity mentality and an abundance mentality. When I hear you say that, when I hear about that new Bob member, because if the scarcity mentality tells you it's like, there's only a few good deals out there, and if I don't jump on this one at this very moment, then I'm not going to win. And the abundance mentality is like, there's opportunities everywhere if you know where to look for them. And I don't have a huge track record of, buying online businesses, but in just life, if you put your nose to the grindstone and you're looking for opportunity, that's when opportunity kind of finds you. And those opportunities are not going to find you if you're just kind of sitting on your butt, kind of just waiting it out typically. But then you mentioned something in one of your podcasts that I heard a while back, but it's like, if your goal is to get out of the job in a month, like maybe you shouldn't even do this, because you're probably going to pull the trigger on the wrong thing. And if you buy the wrong house, if you buy the wrong piece of real estate, like at the end of the day, there's still a fourplex there. It's not going to burn down. Mm-hmm. But I feel like if buying online businesses perspective, if you buy the wrong one without proper due diligence, like you could really buy a lemon. Your course is super helpful trying to do the due diligence to find the right thing.
Yeah, that's great. I love that you said that. So let's talk about your journey from start to where you're at now in terms of due diligence, in terms of learning. What do you think was the hardest part for you to get to the stage where you bought your first online business? That, and I'm sure it's probably similar to where most people, get almost tripped up or struggle as well. But yeah, what do you find with some of the hard things about it? Because we've got to be realistic here. It's not like, it's just go buy, like you said, you wish it was easy as just going to the store and buying a business, but it's, it takes some work.
Yeah. I often compare it to real estate. And when I was buying real estate, I was working with a realtor, and I felt like we were on the same team, same page in that. And I think I came into this process thinking the brokerage site was like my realtor, that I know, that I trust. And I worked with a great brokerage site. I mean, there's no shade on the brokerage site I work with, but I remember when I was plugging in my copy paste into the due diligence framework, and you were like, don't use the graph that the brokerage site gave you. And it kind of blew my mind. I was like, well, this should be accurate information. And I totally understand going to Google Analytics now, but their goal there is to sell the site. So I think that was good for me to kind of take a step back and be like, who are the players here? You have the seller, you have the brokerage site, you have me. So that was something to learn. But then also just that due diligence in general, kind of getting in the mindset of like, I have to churn these out. My personality is not typically like nose to the grindstone. Like I want to discipline, do this every day. Like I'm kind of more big picture, like moving other parts and delegating. But especially in this case, it's my wife and I, but it's mostly just me working on this business. So there's no one to delegate to at the moment. It wouldn't be very wise of me to go delegate my due diligence frameworks. I thought about it. I was like, who can I hire to do these due diligence frameworks? That was a thought that came through my mind. But then I was like, that probably wouldn't be good for my own growth in buying businesses if I'm going to outsource this at this point in my career.
Such an amazing point, because people want everything with minimal amount of work, and then they buy, like you could go get a DD service done. And I've thought about just creating a DD service for people. But I've always had the philosophy of feed a man to fish rather than give a man to fish.
Yeah.
And could you imagine if you did hire somebody to do DD and you didn't look at any businesses, you didn't do DD on any businesses, and they bought you one and they go, here you go. Like, how much more anxious would you be? Or like, how do you feel like the progress of your asset would go with that?
Well, if you're doing this appropriately, then this is big boy money we're talking about. Like if we were buying age domains that we were going to build off of, then you're talking at like a manageable kind of amount. But like, I feel like jumping in the deep end with this, not that we're throwing all of our money at it, every asset we have at it, but it's a significant amount. Like for me personally, when I look at my net worth and I think about how much we invested in this business, it's significant.
Yeah.
So it's daunting, but at the same time, I'm thankful for the frustration of learning a new skill. It's harder to learn new skills as you get older.
I love that. I love that you're grateful for the learning process. What other things were hard through your journey? I remember there was a stage you were like, oh, I don't know about this thing. Do you remember that?
Yeah. I wanted to go to the market, like you said, and just pick it out. And I knew that that wasn't happening for me because it is, I was used to buying, yet again, keep going back to real estate because that's where my framework is. In 2018, I didn't realize all the deals that were there. So it's like, I wish I would have went faster, 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And I think I came into this with that mentality that there's so many deals out there that I can put my nose to the grindstone. I can do the right thing, and then I'll just pick what I want. And that wasn't the case because, the frameworks took a couple hours to get done, and I got those whittled down to maybe taking about 40 minutes. But sometimes I was looking in my kind of whittled down exactly what we were looking for in a business, and it just wasn't out there. Like it wasn't on Motion Invest. It wasn't on Empire Flippers. It wasn't on Flippa. And it was like, well, what do I do now? And I tried to do due diligence on a few other ones to kind of train my brain, but there was still that take them out in personality. Is like, I feel like I'm standing still right now. So we had a conversation. I looked into doing, buying a couple age domains and building them up from the ground up. And maybe that works for some people. And I had a good conversation with a company that would do it. And then I went back and talked to Jaryd, and Jaryd had pretty strong words, but the success rate is not nearly as high as I thought that was. If I put quality content on an H domain, like it's still hit or miss. So if I was investing a good percentage of my net worth on this website, I can't really do hit or miss, and I need to make sure there's good bones to this business. And ultimately that's going to be me learning how to check good content, figure out authority, figure out how fast things load, and even spitting out and handing off numbers I don't know what they mean. I'm like, well, Jaryd knows what they mean. I'm gonna put that in due diligence and just send it off. So it was faith in Jaryd, your message and your fundamentals, and I'm excited about playing that out. I am someone that likes to push the envelope and a little bit of a rule bender, but on this stuff, I want to play it by the book.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm glad that you mentioned that, because a lot of people, and I don't get to speak to everybody, but a lot of people will come up against resistance, and people in times of adversity, a lot of people unfortunately fold and look for an easier path, a shortcut. And when they're doing that with wealth, they forget that it's the long game. Like, you're playing a long game. To replace your income is not, I'm just going to buy a business in 3 months, I don't have to work ever again. It's like, be realistic.
Yeah.
Rome wasn't built in a day. If you want to build real wealth and you want to build a real income stream that is unshakable, and you will never have to go back to work again because it's unshakable, it takes that time. But a lot of people, because of instant gratification and the way the internet is now, it's like, oh, look at this shiny object. Oh, look at this shiny object. I just heard this podcast of this guy that's just bought or just did this in like 3 months, and he's this rich. And they don't think about the other person's background, how much wealth they do or don't have, how much time they do or don't have to put towards it. So how much resources they have to put towards all of this. And they just see it for the tip of the iceberg and go, I want that tip of that iceberg without any substance underneath it. And it's a shame to see, because people have actually came to Bob, they've left and then got burnt and then came back and it's like, damn, Jaryd, should have, not to say that I'm right. It's just to say that could be done in any aspect or any vehicle. Just stay the course. Even if it's not buying a business, just freaking stay the course. Like, yeah, I'm biased towards buying an online business, but if somebody just stays the course without going to shiny objects, they will win in that vehicle. And so, yeah, they've came back and like, damn, all right, I'm going to have to stay the course with this vehicle.
And a lot of times those expectations are our greatest enemy at going after these goals. And social media is the biggest culprit. Like, I work with college students and I see, a textbook stereotypical example is like body image for women or something like that, or even body image for men too. But then I realized that I was feeling, low-key depressed about the state that I was in. But what was in my feed that I was going, it was almost like, how to say it, like uber productive accounts that I was following. It's like Gary V this and, an entrepreneur like success over here. Yeah. And it's like, and then the algorithm knows me. So it's like, it's feeding me even more. And then I'm like, everyone's going 100 miles an hour and I'm sitting still. Yeah. It's what it felt like.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
Yeah, it just missed the mark. It wasn't true. No other person in human history has had as much pressure as we're putting on ourselves to succeed right now.
Yeah, I think if I had a real superpower, it would be no addiction to any social media, because I don't use it. In fact, I spoke to my auntie about this last night at dinner, that I just can't, like, even our Buying Online Businesses Facebook group, our community group, private group, I only leave that open in my tab, and I can't let myself go to the news feed, because then I will go and see, oh, this person's doing X and this person's doing that. And then you go, oh, how come I'm not, like, don't have $5 billion in my bank account yet? And then you forget, this is happening so quickly. And that's just one post, right? Imagine how many posts people are looking at and they're doing it. I'm conscious of this. Most people are unconscious of it. So because I'm conscious of it, I can unravel this and then make myself feel better, because I have the tools and the understanding and the education on how to do it with the consciousness I have of the process playing out for me, whereas most people don't. And the toxicity of it all, as well as the motivation, I'm a big believer that we don't do things based on motivation, because motivation is like a flame. It burns out. But if we do things based on inspiration that comes from within, we can turn, and this is what I like to teach people in our communities, is how to have inspiration and vision and tap into that without needing an external motivation of Gary V and I'm the winner at life and all that sort of stuff, because that's short term, and then people don't get the progress, right?
Well, and I'll ask a question to you about that. When I have been researching about branding, because there's another little project I'm working on that's kind of building a brand. But when I look up branding, the idea of personal branding keeps coming up. And it's like, here's the things you do to kind of build your personal brand. And then as I was kind of categorizing this, I was like, oh, that's kind of what Jaryd does. Is like kind of like a personal brand. Like, this is Jaryd's brand. You see your name, your face on the, on the website. Everywhere I'm seeing this, it's social media this, Instagram this, Facebook this. How have you like balanced those of like building up a personal brand, but then also, not giving in to the demons of social media?
It's a really good question, because and I had this same call with another person, Matt, who's in our mastermind sort of thing. He's thought about building a personal brand around one of the businesses I'm helping him scale. And I live literally about 50 meters from the beach. I don't go every day and on social media be like, look how good my life is, and like share my, like, I'm sure I could have more members and we could have a bigger business and all that sort of stuff if I did overshare about, like, because I'm blessed. I have a very blessed life. I go surfing just about every day and all these good things, right? I can afford a lot of things, but it comes with hard work. That's the iceberg that people see. Like, I've still got that breadth. But to answer your question, is that how you can build a personal brand is be very intentional with only putting yourself in certain areas. So I make it super simple. I create long form content that is evergreen, not short form content that's not evergreen, like a reel or a story, or like overshare my life. I do very little content creation, but it looks like I'm everywhere because I do it consistently. And then when we pick apart all these pieces of content, I have a whole team that distributes it everywhere. So I don't log into Instagram. I have one Facebook page open, which is the group. I don't log into LinkedIn. People message me on all these apps and they don't get anything, because, by the way, guys, contact me via email if you want, because I have somebody help me manage my email. So I don't have to, like, I'm about not more money. I'm about less stress and a fun life. and because I'm empowered that way, the money comes as a byproduct. And so you don't need to, this is where most people believe is like, I need to become an influencer. Is like, and I could be wrong, I feel like I have a good influence in this space without having to force to look like an influencer, like on Instagram. Do you know what I mean? So you can do it.
Yeah. And I appreciate that too, because I feel like I'm on a coaching call right now. Like, you didn't get where you didn't get where you are currently by happenstance. This was like a plan that however long ago you were like, okay, I kind of want my life to look this way, in the sense of like, I don't want to be addicted to social media. It's going to be long form content. It's not going to attract every person, but it's going to attract the right people. And then that's going to do for me what I need it to do. And that excites me at this point when I like think about what I want my life to look like in 5-10 years.
That's awesome, man. Thank you for the question. I want to stick to you though. I've got some more questions for you. This is all about you and your awesomeness and what you've done. So
it's gonna be a short episode. No, just kidding.
No, definitely not. So you've just gone away. What are some of the things that you learnt that were very valuable tools for you that you feel that first timers would get value from knowing or learning?
There's definitely things I learned in this process. I'm 31 now, and we started buying real estate in 2018. Actually, if you go before that, when my wife and I first made the jump into ministry, there was quite a bit of adversity into that, and there's quite a bit of sales. I kind of categorize that as sales, because it's like we had to talk to people about our ministry and then have people join our team. And there was a lot of highs and lows and difficulties and rejections and stepping out into the unknown, that I feel like in this process, it was more applying what we had just been through over the last 8 to 10 years, which was great. Because I felt like oddly prepared and unprepared at the same time. So like I felt prepared in the sense of like when you spoke, I was like, he's been there before. I look at X, Y, or Z and I'm like, okay, like we can do this. This is fundamentals. This is not a crazy idea. By faith, let's step into this. And faith is just trust. And by trust, we're going to get into this. And it really hit me after the purchase. I feel like where I realized I was like, what is this asset that I just bought? Because like I had like so much trust that I was like, I feel totally unequipped. And then there was like this freak out, not a terribly long time, but just like a time of like, okay, it's going to be okay. I know this is a good asset because of the time I put into it. And I know there's some unanswered questions about how to like proceed. And that's all here. It's in the growing your business, the class the lessons that
we've got.
Yeah, it's all there, and I have access to you, and the training wheels are still on, and the ship's still afloat. So yeah, it was a weird sense of like just using a muscle that's already been worked out for the last 10 years, but then doing it in a different way. And I feel like maybe that's something for the listeners of like, maybe online businesses are completely new to you, but you didn't just wake up in the position you're in. Like that you have a history, you have a past of doing bold things. This is just another opportunity to do something bold. And there's that phrase like fortune favors the bold, which is kind of cliche, kind of overdone, but it's like totally true because it feels like everyone's buying businesses, the price is going up, the multiples are getting bigger, but the fact is very few people think the way we think.
Yeah.
And I think it's the best way to think personally. I wouldn't think if it wasn't.
I agree. And you know what? When you have that freak out stage, I absolutely love that. Not because you're feeling the freak out, because that's the feeling you get when you step outside of your comfort zone. And we all know growth happens outside the comfort zone. And when I have those feelings as well, I don't know. I feel like I'm a weird one where I feel like I have a slight addiction to that feeling because I'm so obsessed with growth. Like if you ask friends and family about some of the stuff I do with my health and things, they're just like, yeah, this dude's a nut job. But that's a good thing in a good way, that anxiety of like, what have I done? Like, what is this asset? But that's just the start of the journey as well. And I think what you're alluding to and saying as well is that people may feel like, oh, that's the end of the journey because you just bought this thing. But no, that's like really the start.
Yeah. And that's why I appreciate so much that you had me on to talk to talk about these things. And because I still feel like I'm at the beginning, I'm still at I'm at the starting line on this whole thing. And you said something in your email, and I've done quite a bit of thinking about it since you sent it. You're like, people love hearing from winners like you.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess that never registered because you don't really consider yourself a winner. And, there's still like, what is winning? Winning is putting food on the table for your family and, being content and all these things. But in this instance, it's like we need to celebrate like the tiny wins that are going to move the ticker of life. And this is a win. I mean, and for me to think, okay, well, let's do an X amount of money per month now I need to get it up to this. I'm forgetting the success that's happened in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah. Count your successes. This is a big turning point. It's a massive turning point. Even if somebody used to buy like a $15,000 site or $10,000 site, I know that might be massive to some people. I know my first site was $15,000. But that was a turning point. Massive turning point for me, and it's a massive turning point for you. And yeah, I'm really excited. So you bought this site. How did you work out what site it is? Like, how did you choose what website you wanted to buy?
It's funny. The first site I was planning on buying was an e-commerce site, and we had our first meeting. I don't know. I feel like we had an incredibly awkward first like 3 conversations, and it was all my fault. Like I just didn't totally understand what's going on. I had my wife on the call, and I wanted to walk through this business. And for you, it was a consultation. Like, do you want to do more one-on-ones?
Yeah.
And we walked through this thing, and I felt like I had 30 minutes to pitch this thing. And I was like the guy in the Facebook group that you were mentioning that was like ready to buy the site without, sight unseen, basically with no knowledge. And I'm glad that didn't work out. And actually, I'm wearing these shoes right now that I bought from the seller so I could test the quality of them. And I never wore house shoes before now, and I love them. So it's like there's one good thing that came.
This is from the site that you didn't buy, though, right?
Correct. Yeah, the site I didn't buy. I was so invested in it that I bought something of them at like a 25% discount to test it out to see if I wanted to buy it. And now I wear them every day, and I think about how much of an idiot I was 8 months ago. So
it's great. It's a part of your DD process. That's a win.
Yes, that's a win. And my feet are always warm. So this is just a good place to be.
Yeah.
And but anyway, the question. Yeah. So what was the question?
How did you come to the idea of like what type of site you wanted to buy? At the start, it was e-com, and then we were having chats, and then like what evolved?
Yeah. So it started at e-commerce, and because I could kind of wrap my head around that, like, get the product sold. And like I said, my friend and I were thinking about doing the coffee business for a little bit. And I remember the first time you really pitched a content website, like I was very skeptical in the sense of like, there's this engine that exists and the timeline is always changing. So it's like, how long is this system going to be like churning? And it made me really nervous. So I found myself getting bogged down with like details, like how does someone find this site? How does the algorithm work? I mean, wouldn't we all like to know how the algorithm works? So it's like, and then I had to slow down and think, okay, people are making money in this. And while I'm analyzing this, dollars are being made. While I'm analyzing this, people are owning their sites for 1, 2, 3 years. And it hit me. I was like, okay, if I want the most passive thing for my family, it's not going to be e-commerce. It's not going to be something I got to make calls to China to make sure there's things in the factory. But if I can get down this system of getting content on a site, building links, building and maintaining authority, then that's the game. And staying in the game is the name of the game. Mm-hmm. And I was like, this is something I can kind of wrap my head around.
Love it. I love it. Yeah. I mean, it's the other side of it is that it is more passive, but it's also more profit as well. Like in the content site, when you have, I feel like ecom is an ego. I don't know. It depends on where you come from with your ecom thing. That there's some people, like I said, that have a product that they're so passionate about because it's going to solve a problem, it's going to change people's lives. They're great people to be in e-commerce business. And then sometimes people want just a big, massive e-commerce business because they sell a lot of product, and like, cool, you can have that, but you take all the competition with their gazillions of dollars with it that are trying to beat you and your low profit margins, but each to their own.
Yeah. And with content, like my face isn't everywhere. Like it's not about me, which is really nice. Like the low key nature of that is nice. Figuring out how to get authority for my new website without plastering my face on it and without becoming an expert in lawn care. Like that's not my goal, is to like become an authority in this space. So it kind of takes the pressure off, because one thing I am pretty decent at is like speaking with people, networking, and doing things like that. And building those relationships. When it comes to like content websites, it's all relationships. You treat your writer well, you treat your brand ambassador well. You talk to the person on the transfer team with Motion Invest. You're trying to build a good relationship so they can fix a future problem for you. Like it's all relationships. And that's what I'm kind of learning in this process, is I can manage relationships. That's something I've learned from my time in ministry. So I hope that kind of gives me a leg up here in the coming months and years.
It's the biggest leg up. It's the biggest value. It's the most valuable thing in life to have, to manage and build and keep good relationships, because it's not just content sites. Like, this might be a newsflash to everybody, and hopefully it's like a massive insight, is that all business is relationships. And it's not just all business, but if you look at your life as a business, which I do sometimes as well, is the most valuable things you have in your life are the relationships. Because when everything goes away, even if your sites go away, your businesses go away, everything, if you've got the connections, if you've got the relationships, that's the value. That's the value, because they're tangible, right? And if you keep them, they're not going anywhere. So you're in a really good spot with that. So let's speak about to the site. So share what you wish, or don't share what you don't want to wish, but tell us a little bit more about the site, like the size of the site, the type of the site, and why you chose it.
Yeah, it's in the lawn care niche. And as I said before, that's not I have a yard and I mow my yard, and that's pretty much the extent of my lawn care experience. And it does 50 to 70,000 page views per month. And it was a little bit of a risk in this sense. It's a little more than a year old. And it's at a low point now, but as you would expect, it's higher in the spring and summer. Mm-hmm. And I'm really, as we looked at the fundamentals of what's there, I really expect it to come back up in the spring. So we're trying to do everything we can to prepare for that gain in page views and things like that.
Awesome. Congratulations. How'd the transition of buying the business go for you? Tell me about that.
Yeah. There's a phrase, buy the seller. You're buying the seller. And I feel like that's so true in content websites, because especially not being a technical person, I feel like there's so many ways I could get screwed over if I'm not paying attention. When I met with the seller and he walked me through everything, I felt good about it. Like, he was helpful. And then when we agreed to an amount and we started the process of the transfer, he was catching things. I mean, no shade on Motion Invest, but there was like 2 or 3 things that he messaged me and he was like, you need to have them check on this. You need to have them do this. You need to have them do that. Okay. And then I would email them. They're like, okay, we're working on it. And so I felt like he was in my corner. Like, he wanted the site to succeed. It wasn't just a quick flip for him. And really, I had no idea about that going forward. I mean, you don't really know, but the seller was just really great to work with. And Motion Invest did a good job too. I mean, it was quick. It was, a week's time, and the site was mine. And then there was even a couple little quirks that didn't totally get transitioned that I emailed them, and they got on it, and it was fine within 2 hours.
Awesome, man. Cool. Now that you've changed the accounts over and you can have money coming into your own account, how does it feel to earn an income online?
Yeah, well, I got to get my account set up to make money for the first time.
So you have,
I was supposed to do that today, and I was having some trouble making the bank account. There was just a small technical glitch. So I haven't yet made money on this site, but the ads I just got to get my routing number in there to get it worked out.
Yeah.
So other than that, theoretically, it is pretty wild to me. And it's wild because that I'm making money online. I'm a millennial. I've heard over and over again, there's so much opportunity, like the .com boom, and like, things happen in the early mid 2000s that things are going crazy. People are making money. And I feel like I'm like, yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
And I haven't made any, and I haven't really invested time to growing or developing anything. So I'm excited because I know the internet is massive and it's not slowing down. So I'm excited just to get my toe in the water, and I naturally go to the next step and the next step and the next step. The big vision is I don't want this to be the only site that I buy and sell. I would love a portfolio of sites. So cool. I have no clue how I'm going to get there yet, but as I set up that bank account and I set up, the growth, and that's wild to me too. It's like I get caught up with like, okay, it's making X amount of money. I would love for it to make like 3X that money, or insert the X that money. But then every time you do that, the value of that business goes up too.
Yeah. It's
like buying a 3-plex, painting the walls, and suddenly it's a 6-plex.
Yeah.
Like, it's wild. So anyway, I've yet to make money, but I'm excited about how the money works in this space.
Yeah. Oh, I'm excited for your big vision. I was going to ask you about that, but I'm glad that you shared anyway. So yeah, I'm really, really excited for you. And like I said, this is just the beginning. So congratulations. Would you have any parting words for somebody that's like, oh, maybe I'll buy a business?
It has to be a mind shift to, I don't want to do things the way I've been told they work. And that means, okay, I want more money in a month. What do I got to do? Well, I got to go grab more hours at this job, or I need to go get a raise, or I need to switch this job and go do something else. That's, the rich dad, poor dad phrase. That's how the middle class, lower class works. Like, what do upper class teach their kids? Well, you want to build this portfolio of assets that pay you. Mm-hmm. And maybe buying a business isn't the right thing for you. Mm-hmm. But something is, you can, you have an opportunity now that you may not have in the future. And time is your biggest asset. If you're, and time is relative. I mean, I'm from Kentucky, so we have the late great Colonel Sanders, who, had KFC, Kentucky Fried Chicken, and he started KFC when he was like in his 70s. So it's like time is relative, but at the same time, I would rather start a business now at 31 versus 75, like old Colonel Sanders did. There's a saying, when's the best time to plant a tree? 10 years ago?
Yeah.
When's the second best time to plant a tree? Today. And I would just say it's today. So
cool.
Take initiative.
I love it. I can't say any more. Let's wrap it up. That's too good, Patrick. Thanks so much for coming on.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, Jaryd.
Everybody that is listening, thank you so much for listening. Take a leaf out of Patrick's book. If you do want to buy a business, check us out at buyingonlinebusinesses.com. You can see all the stuff that we have there. So thanks, guys. Bye. Hey, YouTube watcher, if you thought that video was good, you should check out this video here on the 2 best types of websites beginners should buy. Or check out my playlist on how I made my first 100K from buying websites and how to do due diligence. Check it out. It's an awesome playlist. You'll enjoy it.